All right, welcome back, guys. More Legacy on the channel. I know you like Legacy. Everybody's looking forward to Eternal Weekend, so yeah, let's get to it. My plan is to showcase some more Dimir strategies, and next on the block we have this tempo version with a little bit of a twist. So the Nethergoyfs right now are either, you know, in the deck or not in the deck, and well, I'm basically saying this to say that there are two versions right now of Dimir non-reanimator. One version with Nethergoyf and one without. And this is the one with Nethergoyf that will also need some artifacts. I think you might need Dimir Nile Spellbomb anyway to combat the metagame. This version also has some baubles to make sure that your Nethergoyfs are, you know, 3/4s, 4/5s, and actually a powerhouse of a 1-drop. It also has Tamiyo as 1-drops. Then it has, you know, frogs in it and a couple of Murktides on top of the curve with a couple of Bowmasters thrown in for good measure. We have some removal spells. We have some cheap counters. And we have a couple of Thought Seizes to make sure we don't, you know, get destroyed by any combo deck. And then the slight change that I made to a more stock version is basically I'm cutting the Swamp in order to play a Badlands. Then I'm cutting a Wasteland in order to fit a Volcanic Island. And I'm fixing up my fetches because I'm interested to try out a slight red splash out of the sideboard. I want to improve my Eldrazi matchup specifically with Price of Progress. And once I'm already in red, I think a couple of Pyroblasts will be great across the board. You know, killing frogs, killing Murktides, countering Force of Wills, etc. Don't want to lose to Reanimator. Don't want to lose to, you know, Troll of Khazad-dûm, Metamorphosis Fanatic. So that's why I play some Dark Betrayals. A little bit of a hedge against, you know, various combo decks like the Forge, any Storm strategy, Sneak and Show, you name it. A couple of Hydroblasts because of the resurgence of Mono Red. And then 3 Consigns against Eldrazi. So yeah, this deck is, I mean, I would imagine pretty solid. I did cut a Wasteland and I did cut a basic land, so that's not nothing, but I'm hoping to deal, you know, my opponent 8 or 10 damage will be clutch. And yeah, let's see how it goes. All right, guys, quick message here. If you want to have access to my deck guides, my strategy articles, whether you want to pitch me a sweet deck to play on the channel, whether you want to look into coaching or simply just want to say thank you for the content I put out, please check out my Patreon below and become a Baron today. Now, let's get back to the games. All right, round 1, I'm playing Dimir Splash Red. And this hand is actually very interesting because I can go in multiple directions here. I can go turn 1 Tamiyo, and if my opponent does something broken, I have to pitch the Frog, and I cannot be happy with that. Or I can go turn 1 Undercity Sewers, looking for a blue card in order to, you know, make sure I have both of my, you can call them threats. Tamiyo's like, it's not really a threat in the tempo sense, but it is in the control sense, where if we get to stick this and prolong the game, we're winning. I think how I'm supposed to play this is just go turn 1 Tamiyo, have the off chance, or I guess slightly off chance to draw a blue card. I can follow up with Frog, and basically just force my opponent to have a couple of removal spells. I think that's how I'm supposed to play this. Also, if my opponent is on some kind of, what do I know, turn 1 Blood Moon, turn 1 Chalice, whatever the case may be, I pitch and I try and get some advantage out of Tamiyo. Okay. This is probably a good turn, like turn cycle for me in general. I think resolving Tamiyo is more impactful than having, you know, Ponder. With that being said, all it takes now is Entomb with Force of Will backup and a reanimation spell, and I'll be swimming with the fishes in case my opponent is on Reanimator. Thoughtseize is an amazing draw. I think I want to play around days here and dead days for the rest of this match, or game, rather. So let's start with Thoughtseize first. That was a great draw because it's a card that makes my opponent unlikely to go broken on me. Wow. Interesting. So Dark Ritual and Thassa's Oracle, those are not very good cards, I feel like. But I also feel like I can, because I have Fatal Push, I can kind of afford to, maybe that's not true. Maybe I'm just supposed to take the Force of Will, because then I have Force of Will to counter the eventual Doomsday, and then I have, you know, Push to basically trade for the Frog. Okay. Pretty happy that I played around days. I feel like I can play around that card forever. But yeah, time will tell. Percival gone. Also, right now, I'm representing days. I think that's pretty important to point out. There's even a chance my opponent goes Oracle here. Let's see. Okay, that card resolves. And now I untap. Can't be to fire off the push now. That's just how that works. Because of days, I draw Nethergoyf. Okay, that's a cool one. So let's kill the frog. I guess technically I should have let my opponent discard 2 cards and try and block the Tamiyo. I just didn't believe it, I guess. So let's see. My opponent's hand is now those 4 cards that I know. I am getting... Since my opponent found Island, but I guess that still works because of the Dark Ritual. I was about to say my opponent cannot go Doomsday, so I actually might keep playing around the days here, which is slightly annoying, but I'll be fine. Actually, keeping the land there was not a terrible play, because I have a Tamiyo. I have some, it's mostly because of the clues, right? So that was actually not a no-brainer, but I think since I'm playing against a combo deck and time might potentially be ticking, then keeping the land was not, out of the question. Psychic Frog. I have quite a few removal spells in my deck. I have my own frog. This is an interesting case where I could end up losing to, my opponent's plan A because I spent so many resources dealing with plan B here. Well, the push is not really a bad thing, but the force is. Okay, great job by the opponent. Let's see. Wasteland, probably not a very good one. Feel like I should play out the Nethergoyf. My opponent can't do anything about that. Am I wastelanding? The Dark Ritual makes Wasteland kind of bad. Maybe I just hang on to it. How does that sound? Okay. I'll try and hang on to the Wasteland here. I'm trying to see a situation where, the extra colorless mana is useful to me. That could be, with the clues and everything. It's kind of sad I'm losing to the card Doomsday. Edge of Autumn hits the bin. But the alternative is there is a Psychic Frog in play. And it's pretty unclear if that was better. Here's Thassa's Oracle. So my opponent is probably not equipped with the best hand over there. Also worth noting, my Nethergoyf has 3 power, which is going to be useful. But I will have to try and slam the door on my opponent here. Unclear if my opponent kept a card on top. I'm actually not sure how to tell because it's like, yeah, who knows? Here's Flooded Strand. So I know about Ritual and Days. Here's Orcish Bowmasters, which is decent. Not gonna complain about that. Second Tamiyo is quite bad. Okay, my opponent chump blocks here. My opponent's looking to save as much life as possible. I could flip my Tamiyo. Ritual Days. If I flip my Tamiyo here, I can then next turn get back Force of Will. Is that better? Probably is. Next turn, get back Force of Will. Could I have played better here with Bobble? I think I could. I could have bobbled my opponent. This was not a good play. There's a Brainstorm. Okay. So I think because I midway into flipping the Tamiyo drew the Bobble, I could have slowed down there and gotten a more, educated decision. Let's say I had another land, then I could play around Days with my Bowmasters. Then maybe Bowmasters was better than flipping Tamiyo. So now Brainstorm is gone. I would guess the Days is gone as well. Here's Ponder. My opponent is really trying to connect on that Doomsday. I feel like if I get to bring back my Force to Will, I'm winning this game. So this is like the key turn. Opponent's really looking at a lot of cards here. My dream is my opponent goes Psychic Frog, but no shuffle, so I guess we are facing a Doomsday. Oh, we're not. Okay, we're getting pushed, sure. And, okay, nice. Okay, I really like this position now. So, let's see what we can draw here. Let's Thoughtseize, keeping the flexibility on the Tamiyo. Still don't care about the Days and the Ritual. Pretty nice. Wow, my opponent did not go for the Ponder. Probably out of respect for Days. Pretty sweet for me, I think. Return Force of Will. Play Freshly Drawn Frog. Keeping this Wasteland around really, really benefited me here. Playing around Days forever. Not too shabby. Now I have the Force of Will in hand. My opponent knows about that. Turning up the heat with a Frog and a Bowmasters, and then I'm still pretty insulated against my opponent drawing Frog or Tamiyo thanks to push. And if I get a few hits in, I'm also good against, you know, Doomsday pass down the line. So this is not a play I like very much from my opponent, but maybe my opponent has to do it, get some selection from the sewers by returning it with Days. Dark, Ritual, Sewers, and One Unknown is currently my opponent's hand. Best possible draw here. That's not bad. The Braincestral Recall could be anything. My opponent has to put 2 cards back, so Ritual Doomsday or Land Doomsday plus a Days is a possible nut draw. It's unlikely, but it's possible. Let's see what this is. 3 mana, Cycle. I would guess the Ritual is gone from my opponent's hand by now. So let's see. If my opponent goes to 7 here, is my opponent dead? If my opponent goes to 7, my opponent is dead here. Because I draw for turn, that's 5 cards in hand. I can draw for the clue, that's 6 cards. And then I can attack for 7 with Psychic Frog. Okay. That was scary. I really liked how keeping the Wasteland around paid off so well. I mean, sometimes Wasteland is a mana source. It's not a, 0 mana Stone Rain if you know your opponent's doing well on mana. So I like that a lot. I'm interested to see how my sideboard plan works out against that deck. I mean, Pyroblast does have quite a bit of a crossover here, which is great. Because it's a matchup where my opponent will have Force of Will for sure, so that just makes Pyroblast good. Also, I need to program my brain. This game, I can't remember what I fetched, but I need to program my brain that I'm actually on the Red Splash, which is kind of funny. Thoughtseize also showed why it's so great here between, picking my opponent's best card and the info it provides. I think if I can, plan my turns or plan my game plan in general, I with higher certainty instead of me having to guess, that's just a huge advantage. So Thoughtseize has grown quite a bit on me in this post grief metagame. I think it's pretty good. And also, I guess part of why it's so great is the, quote-unquote Delver decks don't really exist, Lightning Bolt Channeler type thing. So the punishment for the 2 life is not as big. Of course, it's not going to be great against an Ancient Tomb deck on the draw where you're under pressure, right? But in the blue matchups, then it's like either some fair blue matchup or some unfair blue matchup, and it's just going to be super solid across the board. So my opponent is doing a lot of counting here, I guess. So let's see. With one card in hand, it can't possibly be anything since we're not playing Vintage. For Vintage, that can always be, you know, a free cycler into a Gush, into a Lotus Oracle, but not here. I guess while we wait, thanks so much for the support throughout the year. It's been pretty darn awesome. Play Magic multiple times every week on the channel. Still play the tournaments that I love to play. Still work with the players and coaching that I love to do. Still do some commentary. And yeah, overall, just living the dream. So very excited about that. Let's see. So draw. Whoop. No worries. Opponent did not do the math on the clue, which is totally fine. So let's see. I like the betrayals. So I have a sideboard with blue elemental blast, red elemental blast, and black elemental blast. Love the negation. So that's 5 cards. Actually, not sure I can do much more. So the Nile spell bombs are bad. Maybe shoot the sheriff is a bad rate. So I like these 5 cards for sure. And because I didn't, you know, I didn't work super hard on the sideboard plan in general. So of course the numbers are going to be a bit off here. So let's see. Do I really want 6 removal spells against that deck? Or actually 8 if we count the pyros. Maybe I'm supposed to remove, you know, like 1 Goif, 1 push. Yeah, maybe that's fine. Maybe Nethergoyf is a card I just want to draw 1 copy of and not, you know, mess around. I can actually cut a Wasteland instead of a Nethergoyf. I think that's reasonable. I don't think Wastelands are that great against the deck. I mean, they can be good, but once you've kind of seen your opponent's willingness to fetch the basics, and then all of a sudden maybe the threat of Wasteland is going to be just fine. This hand is a keep. I'm naked to turn 1 shenanigans, but other than that, looks pretty well rounded. Very, very big difference to this hand on the draw versus on the play. On the play, I could thought tease my opponent, play from there, but now we're getting smoked. Okay, turn 1 Ritual Doomsday. That's kind of cool. That's partially why that deck is good, because you don't know if the opponent's going to go, you know, Thoughtseize Psychic Frog, or Sculpt with a million cantrips, or Ritual out of Doomsday with Force of Will backup. Like, there's a lot of potential in that deck, and I think it's easy to get lost in that. And then I'm like, oh, I can't. I just got turn 1 Doomsday, and then at game 3, I can't possibly keep a hand without a counter. Need to mulligan this and stuff. And then all of a sudden they have this more, you know, mid-range draw, and then we just lose slowly instead of losing fast. There's a lot of that stuff that I feel like I do reasonably well, and that's why I keep putting up tournament results. I think the navigating the whole monster under the bed, very bad things can happen. Just be aware of that and pick the fights you're more likely to win, right? This time, my opponent's Doomsday pile is not going to be wasted, unfortunately. My opponent will be at 9. Not really something I can realistically punish before it's all done. So let's see. We now get a sneak peek into our opponent's sideboard plan. Looks very similar to what they submitted game 1. Wow. Almost no sideboarding here between, you know, the Frogs and the Tamios. I think they're in the main deck. Do I even spot 1 sideboard card here? It's very possible I spot 0 sideboard cards. Okay, that's interesting. How many forces? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many days is 1, 2, 3? Who knows if they're playing 3 or 4? I don't really see how I'm winning this game. It probably starts with drawing... Okay. It probably starts with drawing Force of Will. I don't know if this is correct, but I only counted 3 days out there, and I think the fourth one is in there, but let's see. Let's see. Yeah, so now I have to take the days. So if my opponent just has, you know, some cycle pile, I'm in trouble. And since there's Cavern of Souls in there, it's so bad. I think I'm pitching Timio here. Really want to try and slow my opponent down, even though it's incredibly hard. Ponder an Unknown left in the hand. I think Wasteland is a card that can... No, I don't even know about that. Because of the pedal. So as long as my opponent has Cavern and Oracle in the deck, I'm up against the clock. Days. Okay, I guess we brainstorm here. I really don't know what I can hit. So one Nethergoyf goes away, and I guess a Ponder. Play land. Play Nethergoyf. Pass the turn. And now there's something about, let's say I daze. My opponent has 3 cards in the deck. What if I daze a Ponder now and draw Wasteland? I think that's a way to do it. Dazing that card resolves. I need to get... No. I don't see how I do this. Another pedal, and then my opponent has to Ponder in hand. So now my opponent sets up drawing Oracle Cavern. Oh, I actually see how I win now. Wow. I need to draw Pyroblast, because my opponent's going to go for it next turn, and they're probably not going to respect not getting to an empty deck, but who knows. Dark Betrayal, that's so bad. Brainstorm into Pyroblast. That's not a Pyroblast, but that is a Wasteland. Does that change anything? I don't think so. Sure. Wasteland, my opponent's Underground Sea, attack for 3. I don't even have lethal next turn. Can't beat the Cavern. My opponent would maybe have gone for it here. I actually think they would. So Pyroblast or even Fatal Push would have been GG's there. Maybe. Okay, that's cool that I actually had a shot. Okay, turn 1 Doomsday, not my favorite thing. Now I'm on the play. Wasteland gets better. Question is if I have a card that's worse. I could see Wasteland being better than Nethergoyf. Once more, just drawing a single copy of Nethergoyf would be probably the ideal number. All right, game 3 against the day. Let's see what we can do. This hand looks fine. It's not amazing against my opponent's Broken Angle, but it's good against, you know, the frog versus frog situations. Also, this is like super minor. My opponent submitted their deck pretty quickly, so... And I just saw my more or less my opponent's whole deck, so I don't know. There's a little bit to be said there. So now I can consider casting a Brainstorm to have more... Because I'm tapping out for Frog, looking deeper for Force or Second Days could be valuable. I don't get there, so I can get rid of that card. And a random card, I guess. Because I do have the intention of shuffling here. Yeah, I mean, let's play a Psychic Frog. And I should probably do it off of Volcanic Island. That's kind of a downside that I'm showing the red splash before, you know, it's too late for the opponent. I did not find Force of Will or... Oh, I'm getting pushed here. That's annoying. Could have dazed there. I would rather give my opponent the impression that land Doomsday is going to happen. Okay. This is very annoying. But I have a million answers in my deck between, you know, the pushes, the betrayals, the pyroblasts. Mathematically, I should be doing fine here. So let's go ponder. There's a dark betrayal, and I can find the days on the bauble. Cool. Let's do that. Seeing a brainstorm on top of my opponent's deck. Yeah, I guess let's do a dark. Yeah, let's dark betrayal now. I think that's reasonable. That happens. I draw into another daze and have a Bowmaster underneath. I'm representing Pyroblast as things stand here. My opponent's passing. Okay. So I actually really like... Oh, I guess they don't pass. They play Frog. Am I double dazing a Frog here? I think I am. Double dazing a Frog. If my opponent does not play a land here, I will Wasteland instead of Murktide. Basically because of the threat of daze. And my opponent has 4 dazes in the deck. What I could have done there is use Bowmasters as the daze fodder. Maybe that was better. Yeah, maybe that was better. I'm playing a bit off... What do you call it? I don't make my most efficient play because I'm respecting that card so much, and I don't know if that's correct. I just don't want to have my 8/8 countered, but I also don't want to lose slowly, so I guess let's see. Thoughtseize is a great one that does not expose me to daze. Also, I feel like my opponent's getting a Surveil land here, just getting rid of the 2 worst cards in hand. I expect my opponent to let this resolve and then surveil with the fresh information about what I took. Or my opponent, if my opponent is really good, my opponent could hedge for this by putting a card on top that, in the case of Thoughtseize, would be great to have there. It looks like if I take the Doomsday, we are kind of playing my game, if that makes sense. My opponent has a Thoughtseize and a push, so that'll put me straight into, I guess, the dumps, but I think I trust my deck to draw out of this more than my opponent's deck. It is interesting, though. So my opponent played well, hedging, and actually liked the cards on top, and I misevaluated the situation. Thoughtseize is resolving here. Brainstorm gone. Doomsday gone. So now I know about Fatal Push. And my opponent has 1 unknown. Or, you know, put back the push. I feel like the Murktide is going to get taken here. Murktide did not get taken. Is this another Thoughtseize, though? I mean... Oh, wow. Ooh, I see, I see. Okay, the opponent found the perfects, were able to hide them pretty well. I thought see something, my opponent found another copy. That's just what's going to happen sometimes. I think my philosophy was pretty solid. Taking the card that basically allowed my opponent to play on a different axis than what I was doing. Because if we're playing, you know, mid-range versus mid-range, I like my chances. So that was cool. The brainstorm that looked like you know, getting rid of some bad cards, surveilling, really got me there. What I could have considered here was my plan of using Bowmasters as the daze catcher. Once I saw the the brainstorm on top of my opponent's deck with Mistress Bauble, maybe that was where I was supposed to do something else. Because, first of all, it's my daze, you know, daze magnet. And second of all, if it works, it's going to be great against that brainstorm. Of course, now we know my opponent had Fatal Push, so and they did not have days, but that's, you know, the information we have now. But at the time, I actually thought it was pretty solid after seeing the brainstorm on top of the deck. I don't feel like it did a good enough job of, you know, updating with the new, freshly acquired info. Wastelanding there was good because my opponent skipped the land drop. Yeah, it's a tough one. The double days and the frog, I like that a lot. Getting rid of the pedal. Yeah, this was a tough one. And now I'm left with a Murktide regen that is too late to the party. I now need to draw something like, well, I guess Pyroblast? Yeah, I probably have to draw Pyroblast to win this game. If I draw the card Force of Will, I think I'm only, you know, prolonging the pain, so to speak. Delaying the inevitable. I don't think that's a winner. Pretty cool display of that deck's ability to have the threat of a deadly combo, but also just pretty good, you know, meat and potatoes deck with Push, Frog, Tameo, stuff like that. Pretty cool stuff. My opponent put 5 of the best ones in there. What can we draw? I draw Ponder. So, yeah. Dark Betrayal is not winning this game. So my opponent knows I can just play an 8/8. So they obviously made a pile that is trying to win on the spot. This logic is flawed if my opponent, you know, thinks that that's how I'm gonna view it, right? Then maybe they can capitalize on this, but I think my opponent's gonna, you know... Okay. Oh. Unclear. Unclear what this game is about. Does my opponent have a brainstorm? Where do I find a pyro? Okay, so... Yeah, this is so tough. So I think I'm supposed to play around days and go Murktide with Pyroblast up. One, two, three, four, five. Play the 8/8, and now I expect to die. But why didn't I die last turn? Trying to make sense of this. Uh-huh. Sure. Here's the Cavern. 1 card in hand. If that's a Cycler, I'm dead. Wow, my opponent decides to not respect the Pyroblast. That's crazy. Yeah, why? Why? I really don't think I was supposed to win this game. I'm puzzled. I like a lot of things I did in order to put myself in this position, but that all comes falling down if my opponent adjusts for the Volcanic Island being in play. I guess, you know, Pyroblast not being standard out of this deck helps me quite a bit with a play like this. Also, my opponent seems to build a pile where Orcish Bowmasters would be incredible against. Wow. And I think that's what I... So when I pass a turn with 2 mana there, I'm representing Bowmasters. Maybe. And that gives me the time to draw into the Pyroblast. Yeah, that was That was quite incredible. Lots of very cool details from that game. But I guess we take it. A W on the column, and we march on. All right, round 2. I'm playing Dimir, mid-range, tempo, whatever you want to call it, and I splash red, as my Doomsday opponent just found out. This hand looks fine. I have some 1-drops. Right now, like, Underground Sea Pass, Polluted the Pass could mean everything. Like, who? I don't even know what play to make here. So, do I hedge against Entomb? Do I hedge against... I have no idea. I'm going to play out the Spell Bomb here and play hedge against Entomb. But I have no idea what's correct here. You can argue that turn 1 Nethergoyf is not going to be amazing regardless. So I'm not really missing out on much here. My opponent with the Surveil could be a daze scenario. Ooh. Okay, well, I like my Nile Spellbomb. And let's see how I put on enough pressure. Psychic Frog, very annoying magic card. Wonder if my opponent thinks the same. So I play that into potential daze, which is not perfect. What happens if I play Tameo Nethergoyf? Maybe I do that instead. Tameo plus Nethergoyf. Do I have the intention to block with my Tameo? That's probably not bad. I think I'll block with my Tameo here. This doesn't look like a game where I have the mana to crack clues, etc. Looks like my opponent knows the writings on the wall here. I'm just going to force one more card out of my opponent. Not really anything to write home about, but I think it's fine. Also growing my Nethergoyfs into incredible Herd Apes. My opponent discards Force of Will. Okay, that's interesting. So I guess they have another. Otherwise, that play is not the best. What are we looking at here? Second Frog would be very tough. Okay, that's definitely the way to beat Nile Spellbomb. I draw another Tameo, which is not horrible. Feel like I should attack with this Nethergoyf. Attack with Nethergoyf. Maybe not? Yeah, let's attack with this Goyf. I think it's good. Do I brainstorm if it connects? Not a bad shout. What's the alternative? The alternative is jamming double 1-drop and brainstorming next turn. Okay. It's kind of tough playing against those two frogs. I really want to find removal. But now the question is, which 1-drop do I want to get dazed if any of them are gonna get dazed? Feel like it's Tameo I want to get dazed. Tameo gets dazed. Force of Will. Force of Will is not a fatal push. So let's mill that over. I now have some 3/4 in play. So basically now I'm ready to block Frog with Nethergoyf. And then I'm willing to go out of my way to find a freaking fatal push. That would just be a good way to get back into this game. Reanimate, gets binned. My opponent can give flying to the small one. Then my opponent's gonna draw 2 cards. This is not easy. My opponent's drawing a lot of cards, but I have the yard shut down, which is not nothing. Don't want to block the 3/4 and simply just, eat my opponent's worst card out of the hand. I don't think that's great. Sure, little ponder. My opponent has 5 cards, and I'm losing the race, probably. Ugh, so tough. So tough. Here's Murktide Regent, which is not a combo with the Nethergoyfs I have in play, unfortunately. This could be the end of me, so let's see. Land is bad, and probably Murky. Is Murktide better than Second Frog? It could be, actually. So let's go like this. So attack for 6. What happens if I go... Maybe I'm supposed to Murk here. Do like this. Blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leave land Tameo. Have the opportunity to sacrifice Nile Spellbomb. Now at least my Murktide can block the small frog. I'm trying to race here. Not sure if that's possible. Brainstorm. My opponent has too many cards here. Uncontested Frog is just incredibly hard to beat. Because if my opponent realizes, like, which cards are bad, the reanimations, the trolls, the big dudes, right, entombs, then the race is not, then I'm not winning this race, because then my opponent is growing the Goyfs. Okay, so, I mean, if my opponent has to discard 4 cards to the Psychic Frog, I guess we take that. Also, my opponent could transition into a strategy where staying back with 1 frog is the name of the game. Let's see. Wow. My opponent passes the turn here. Okay. So now I guess I have a shot because the game is kind of stabilized. I guess we have a situation where if I find a fatal push, I can do some good work. Let's get rid of that card. Let's get rid of... What happens if I ponder into the land here? Is that good? Not really. Can be playable. So ponder puts my Netherglyphs at 4/5, worth mentioning. Force of Will, not bad. But maybe it is not good enough. Maybe I just go like this, draw, play land, play Psychic Frog around days. And then, let's see, can I attack with everybody here? Then if I grow... Yeah, I think attacking with everybody here is good. I'm trying to set up a situation where I can use my frog to grow my Murktide in combat, and that's going to be annoying for the opponent. Sure, I might lose, a lot of Nethergoyf power. Okay, so that one gains flying. I'm basically trying to exhaust my opponent's resources here. Let's see if it works. Okay, so my opponent is... I mean, now it's on my opponent to react here. My opponent needs to discard some stuff. Wasteland got discarded, sure. I feel like I should try and go for my opponent's hand here. So now... I guess I just get rid of... let's see. Go flying. Oh, Surveillance already in play. Okay. So I can't do anything smart there. I could cycle Spell Bomb, but I don't think that's how I want to do it just yet. So I guess Exile, Exile, and Exile is the way to go. So now I have a 7/7. My opponent needs to discard 2 more cards to get rid of it, which will probably be worth it, but at least I'm forcing my opponent to do that. Here's a Brainstorm. Interesting. So my opponent, this is actually a good play. My opponent is now trying to put, you know, the best cards on top of the deck and then have the worst cards in hand as fodder. So this is actually a good play. I didn't think about this. Good play is good. So now my opponent discards 2 more cards. And I guess now I crack my Nile Spellbomb for a card. So that if I draw an instant, I can get the insert a sorcery. I can get the last card out of my opponent's hand. That did not work. Okay, so my opponent eats my Murktide, has 1 card left. I get in for 6. I drew a Wasteland, which is quite bad, and my opponent was able to hide a few good cards on top of the deck. I will say that my opponent's ability to give Psychic Frog flying just got worse. So this game is incredibly complicated. Frog working in tandem with Murktide. Oh, crap. Okay, nice. So if my opponent's last card in hand is anything good, I'm in trouble. Because my opponent can discard that to Frog in response to this card. Okay, nice. Okay, well, we got punished here. Pretty nice situation. And now I think this is where my Nethergoyfs are outclassed. But I think I put up a good fight here. It doesn't take much here for me to, you know, win out on this exchange and ride off towards the sunset. Getting in for 7. I guess this over here is a free block. I get rid of the Wasteland. My plan is to draw Fatal Push anyway. I don't have an instant in the yard, so... Yeah, I guess I take 7 here. My opponent draws a card. What a great game. This is an incredibly nice showcase of some you know, corner case stuff that can happen in the matchup. Ponder is a good start. So let's cast that card. Force of Will, terrible. Holding up 5 mana for a Force here is out of the question. Drawing the Force, terrible. The good thing about this is I can connect with Frog. Problem is, my opponent is beating me on the backswing. What happens if I attack with 2 Nethergoyfs? I think my way to win this game is for my opponent to not realize that I have lethal if one Nethergoyf powers through. Is that true, though? So in the backswing, I need to block that card. What if that happens? I'm losing... Let's say my opponent loses 2 creatures here. Then I'm alive. How can we set up a trap here? Because I'm losing if we just play this in a standard way. If I wasteland my opponent, I only have 1 card in hand. That's going to make my opponent less suspicious. What if I... Can I make my frog a flyer if I discard the wasteland? No, then I only have 2 types out there that I can... I'll have 2 lands and I'll have 2 creatures. Nethergoyf. Yeah, this is so bad for me because I might have to chum block next turn. So I guess I play that card out. I wasteland my opponent and I hope they sleep at the wheel, basically. Let's see. The problem is those two, the Fanatic and the Frog, both have lifelink. That's actually the biggest problem here. And that block just... Yeah. So, okay. I don't hate this. So let's go discard. So now my opponent has to discard a card to save. No, they don't. If my opponent discards a card, nice Archon. Let's see. So now I trade with the Fanatic, eat that one. I can then chum block the big one. So I need to exile 4 different types in order to replay this card, but I only have 5 different types in my yard, so that will kill this one. So that doesn't make much sense unless I really want a blocker. But my opponent's going to give flying, and then I have to chum block. Wow, this is... Well, this game is incredibly complicated. My opponent's looking for a lethal reanimate. I don't like that my opponent kept the card. That's definitely gonna be bad for me. Great game of Magic. Unfortunately, I did not come out ahead. So let's see how this goes. I have 7 good cards. I'm removing 7 counterspells, and I'm hoping to demolish my opponent here with the superior deck setup between 5 hate pieces and, you know, some more efficient stuff. But yeah, I mean, my opponent had 3 unanswered frogs. So I'm actually pretty happy about how that game played out. Pretty happy about that one. Opponent's asking if this will be on YouTube. That's always cool. I like, especially when I played at GPs, etc. I would go and watch, you know, feature matches, and it was always a cool experience. Very, very nice. Always nice to get some encouraging words after a defeat. But yeah, this setup should be pretty juicy, right? Now I have a ton of removal. I can't imagine a frog, you know, living in these post-sideboarded games. So the philosophy is basically you want to draw, you know, a mix of a piece of graveyard hate and then just, you know, some normal stuff, and then you'll be fine. The card Psychic Frog, and especially in multiples, can definitely throw a wrench in that plan. Like we just saw game 1. That was brutal. All right, we have what we just talked about. A piece of graveyard hate and some, you know, normal stuff. It's actually quite interesting what I do here. I can see attacking as soon as possible being great. I can also see thought seizing my opponent being great. You know, what if they have a thought seize? I can take that, and then I can kind of get some good tempo going here where the opponent invests in Tomb and stuff like that. But let's see. Here's Ghost Vacuum. Okay. Okay, so it looks like my opponent's moving a bit away from this. Yeah, I'll definitely take the Thoughtseize here. Then my opponent's going to play Ghost Vacuum, and then my Netherglyphs are going to be bad forever. Maybe that's not how you play. Oh, interesting hand. My opponent has quite a number of angles covered. It's funny, it actually looks like the Ghost Vacuum is just awesome against my Netherglyph. Okay. This is not the ideal Thoughtseize target turn 1. Actually, I didn't think about that the card Ghost Vacuum is good against Netherglyph. You know, a card like Fairy Macabre is not. But yeah, that one actually is. Okay. My opponent wastelanding there. I don't mind. That's a fine spot to get wastelanded in my opinion. So now I can fetch Underground Sea, cast Netherglyph. Feel like I should do that because when I have the Netherglyph in play, if my opponent casts Thoughtseize, that's not really what they are dreaming of. Because I'm kind of attacking in the meantime, so let's see. Okay, my opponent found another land. This is interesting. This could be a basic land. I wouldn't even be surprised. Yeah, I was about to say. My opponent might develop here. Okay. So this is quite interesting. If my opponent's on a true mid-range plan, I shouldn't be worried. And then, you know, Force Will and Thoughtseize, they lose a little bit of value. But who knows? I think I'll go Ponder first here, try and bait out the days a little bit. These cards are actually not very good, but maybe the Bowmaster is too strong to put away. Because my opponent has a no. Let me get these cards out of here. I actually don't think they're good. An instant is fine. Then I'll play another Netherglyph. Could do it out of a Badlands, but I think that would be a mistake, seeing that I don't have my Pyroblasts, and if I get wasted, I can't cantrip. This is not impressive, having them as a 2-3 at this point. This is where you want to have your, you know, your Mistress Bauble in the mix, or having cast an instant, but it is what it is. Cycle Troll, basic Swamp. I hope this is cast Thoughtseize, but maybe that is a bit too ambitious. That was indeed cast Thoughtseize. Okay. I'll let my opponent take a pick here. Now I can get my Netherglyphs to 3-4 and really start putting pressure on the opponent. Also worth noting is my opponent hasn't set up a miracle, so there's that. Wasteland, and my opponent's play pattern has now paid off officially. Wow, these are so bad. Whoa. And my opponent has a Bowmaster coming if they want to. Yeah, this is atrocious. What if the third card down is a Thoughtseize or Netherglyph? Then I'm supposed to play a land out first. Also quite a bad... You know, strategically, this is not, you know, exciting. But drawing a shuffle effect here is very exciting. Let's get rid of those. Despite the brainstorm, draw a random card. Push is fine. I could proactively macabre here to get in for more damage, but I don't think it's correct. I think the punishment is too big. This looks like a fanatic. Yeah. That card is going to be very tough to beat. Well, maybe... Yeah, let's see. Let's see. My opponent knows about this. Get rid of that card. Get rid of, I guess, Ghost Vacuum because of opposing Barrogoyfs. I don't know. And now I have the 4/5s. If I did that proactively last turn, my opponent would be at 7. And my opponent would have to chump block. Wow, nice draw. So now, if my opponent wants to, they can go to 1 here, which is quite dangerous against a Bowmaster deck. My opponent is willing to do it. 1 life. So now, let's see. Boom, boom, boom. So leaving all the types in. Let's see. Creature, instant, sorcery, land. Yes. This is how it works. I can get Force of Will here. Well, I guess I can't. I cannot get Force of Will. That was the point. So yeah, if I'm proactive with the Macabre, I'm forcing the chump block on the Fanatic. I think that's too tough. I think I want to have a situation where I'm punishing Entomb plus Animate Dead harder, but who knows. Okay, I actually end up taking this one. So this is kind of a cool showcase of... I'm playing, you know, the Black Curd Ape, and I'm trying to get the job done. My opponent is on the draw, having Force Will and Thoughtseize in hand that they never got to cast. Well, I guess that's a lie. They cast the Thoughtseize, my bad. But the whole point is they were kind of playing from behind. So if you're, you know, if you're Wastelanding, if you're casting Thoughtseize, if you're setting up with basics, not developing the board while getting attacked, that's generally not where you want to be. And inevitably, what ended up granting me the game. I still have my counters in the sideboard. It's good. I have bad cards in my sideboard. I have good cards in my main deck, so I'm very happy with this. Yeah, the Ghost Vacuum. That's so strong against the card Nethergoyf, because it's like Relic. If you guys have played Pauper, you just keeping down their graveyard against, you know, like Dimir Terror or whatever. It's just so annoying because the game is going to go long, so it's going to exile like 10 cards because of that context. But yeah, I don't know. This hand is nothing to write home about. This island is atrocious in the hand. Maybe these double wastelands can do magic. I'm going to lead on Thoughtseize here. A little cool thing you can do is probe the top of the opponent's deck with Bauble to get a little bit more of a qualified opinion on what to do. Worth noting is this hand is weak to Frog, which is not my favorite. Okay, so Thoughtseize, probably taking out Thoughtseize. I'm going to Wasteland here since my hand loses to Psychic Frog. So there's a lot of equity. Oh yeah, this is cool. So this is a cool play. So I love how my opponent's thinking here. My opponent's thinking, well, I'm just going to sound super confident now. I think my opponent's thinking, if I give my opponent a reason to turn 1 Thoughtseize, I get to play the game. So if my opponent takes the Thoughtseize, I don't have a turn 1 play. I'm going to Wasteland every time. So let's say my opponent really doesn't want to get wasted. Then this is a very cool play. I've definitely done this play before where I'm giving my opponent a reason to doubt a play. So let's see. Here's Basic Island. Here's the Vacuum. Sure. So now I get to Thoughtseize. So my best bet is my opponent has no more lands in hand. Wow, I draw the Tameo. I don't think I'm supposed to get, like, my Tameo dazed or whatever. Okay, my opponent had the land. Well, who knows? So, because I have the Fatal Push, I think I like taking the Ponder. You can also argue, what is my opponent going to find on Ponder? I'm going to take the Ponder here and hopefully look like somebody with a daze. So this is also kind of the same theme I just talked about. And now I'm taking up Ponder, and I want to give my opponent a reason to go fetch Underground Sea, play Psychic Frog. Because I have Wasteland Fatal Push. Oh, crap. Nice draw by the opponent here. That was a good one. Now my opponent can do that play and ignore the Wasteland, which is good. So now I can kill the frog, develop a Tameo, draw another Goyf, kill, play that card. And this is the stage of the game where Miracle Fanatic is gonna change the dynamic, because earlier this was a great situation for my deck, but with the way things are going these days and the newest printing, this is actually not, anything crazy. So that's a turn we knew about. Every known card is out of there, and I get to connect with Tameo. Worth noting is Orcish Billmasters is a magic card. I think I'm going to crack my clue on my opponent's upkeep here. I don't think playing around Bowmasters forever is going to be crazy. So let's see what the Surveil Land finds here. Because now, if I wasteland my opponent, I'm keeping them off. Oh, crap. I could have flipped my Tameo. I should have thought about that. I have to think about a card like Barrogoyf right now. What if I do that? Kill... This is a very tough game. Sure. Push is gone from the yard. Is this where I flip my Tameo? Magic's so hard. So, which card is it that I really don't care about? 1, 2, 3, 4. So Murktide is not going to get cast. Yeah, Murktide is not going to get cast. And I don't want my frog Thought Seized, I guess. So let's flip the Tameo. Definitely should have done that on my own turn. And here comes the Fanatic. Yeah, that's quite powerful. So now I'm staring down a Fanatic. My opponent's been very good at finding the Fanatics. To be fair, that's just what the card does. It's really good. Yeah, I don't think it matters. Let's get rid of those. And that's like the threat that's looming all the time. So now I'm actually not drawing the card that I wanted to. The Murktide was actually castable here. Because my opponent, I don't know. I don't know if my opponent messed up, but... So let's see. Exile, exile. Can my opponent make a double block bad? By going... Can my opponent get it to worse than a 2/3? Basically the question. My opponent can go exile, feature exile sorcery. That does not work. But I'm using my mana slightly better. I get this boy onto the battlefield. My opponent's still with that unknown card in hand that is... Could be a daze, actually, the way I played last turn. Because I wastelanded the tapped sewers. And no. It can't. I don't think it's a daze. Because my opponent did not know about the Fanatic. So they would have... Yeah, they would have dazed the Brainstorm before knowing about the Fanatic. That's basically the point. So now what if I double block the Fanatic? Maybe that's just bad. Maybe I'm supposed to just take 3 damage onto Tamiyo. I think that's fine. Right now I'm just trying to save some time and pull ahead on cards with the Frog. But let's see what my opponent's last couple of cards are. Psychic Frog, 1 card in hand. Okay. Let's see if my opponent is willing to proactively get rid of cards in the yard. They're not. Okay. So first of all, let's plus this Tamiyo. Second of all, I can now cast a 5/5 Murktide this turn. Let's try and attack with both here. My opponent takes the damage. I'm not going to do anything here. I'm going to draw the card. Okay. So now, I think I pump with Nethergoyf. Or should I just play land Murktide? Maybe that's better. All right. I'll play a Murk-Key here, see what happens. 5/5 Murktide enters. Pass. My Nethergoyf is now an 0/1. Not the best synergies I've ever seen. The 5/5 is quite strong here. It only gets dealt with by, you know, Brace and Borrower Bounce. Some people play... Okay. Yeah, some people do play Dismember, as you can see. So unfortunately, that is exactly enough to take care of the Murktide. 6/6 would have been beautiful. Opponent is putting a counter on here, which might look a little bit weird, but that's because of the Tamiyo. And then my opponent's going to draw a card, and yeah, this is tricky. I take 2 damage here, and my Planeswalker is dead. 1 damage, rather. Ghost Vacuum is continuously disrupting my ability to make Nethergoyf a relevant Magic card. I think now it's time to find removal for Frog, then I feel like I can win this game. I feel like attacking with both here is fine. Don't see myself blocking with Nethergoyf anytime soon. My opponent can just give the Frog flying, so I think this is better. Brainstorm is a great card. I have a fetch already. I have a bad card in hand, so this is what the cool kids refer to as a Braincestral Recall. These cards are not great. This game is going to go on for a while. Yeah. Still don't think I respect these. Tough one. I'm having a hard time finding my removal spells in this match. Despite playing, I don't know, 9 or something. So, okay, this is cool play. My opponent is scared of a second Murktide here. So now I go Badlands, Frog, Tameo. That's the turn. You're up. Yeah, that dismember was very clutch. My Murktide being a 6/6 would have been awesome. To be fair, my opponent can then, you know, attack, I block, my opponent uses dismember as a combat trick, etc. So, am I willing to trade a card for Tameo here? Unclear. Oh, my opponent's getting in there with both. I'm going to take the damage here. This is an incredible game because we both have, you know, frogs online. Assume one of my frogs are going to get killed here, but I'm still going to have one to work with, I believe. I think my opponent has a fatal push. I wonder what the last card is from, you know, a few turns ago that my opponent had left in hand all this time. Maybe it's just a naked Force of Will with no... friend. Okay, getting rid of my red mana here. I'm kind of telling my opponent I play Pyroblast. This has Bowmasters written all over it. Let's see. It's getting down to crunch time here. Nethergoyf. Don't love to see that card. Surely don't love to see that card. Is there any way... So exile that. I think I should just attack with everybody. Just stay back with a Nethergoyf. The intention to double block. Okay, I guess we can try this. So if my opponent has Bowmasters, I'm very sad. My opponent does not have Bowmaster. I'm quite happy. Let's see. A couple of lands. Oh, this is such a sign of weakness, but I think I have to do it. Okay, so I guess play land, play ponder. These cards are very solid for next turn. How long can I keep planning for next turn? That's actually quite interesting. How long can I keep planning for next turn? So right now, my opponent has access to removing one card type from my graveyard. And, ooh, that's actually why I should have drawn a Ponder instead of Brainstorm, because I already have a Sorcerer in the yard. So if my opponent points at the Ponder with the Vacuum, I can, you know, pitch to Frog and actually get the Sorcery back in there. Pretty high-level stuff, but also something I should have in my arsenal if I'm on my A game, which is very tough to be these days. My opponent's still maybe a little bit restricted on the mana situation, where I'm doing a lot better. Who knows? Tameo is going to be a little bit annoying. So what is this? Okay, so Flying Frog. If my opponent pitches the whole hand, they can get rid of Tameo. It looks like my opponent's attacking Tameo. Looking to get in for one. Uncastable Baragorf, so we kind of had that on the calendar many, many turns ago. Wow. My opponent respecting days here big time. But they like the last card they have. So what is that? Some reanimation to make Baragorf cheaper, effectively? Yeah, okay. Poof, Magic the Gathering is an incredible game. So I get past a turn here once more, I'm asking to find removal. Did I could have sworn I had a ponder around here. I guess we find out. Okay. So Netherglyph is quite bad, and well, Netherglyph is kind of solid, but also not really what I'm looking for. So I guess I go like this. Fetch. That means I have Revolt, should I be so lucky to find Fatal Push. I don't find Fatal Push. I find Nile Spellbomb, which is a card that can shrink opposing Barrogoyfs. Let's see. Nile Spellbomb. Maybe this is just a spot where I double fly some frogs and look harder for removal. Pretty cool game here, not gonna lie. So land. Yes, sorcery is slightly harder to get. My opponent has a lot of lifelinkers in play. Draw. Nile Spellbomb. That's not good. So I guess I play out the Bowmasters now because of these. Okay, here's Brainstorm in response. That's annoying. Unclear if I could have caught a better timing. And then I play out Nile Spellbomb afterwards because I didn't want the last card in my opponent's hand to be Daze. Oh no, I missed a great play here. Oh no, I could have done a crazy play. Ah. Darn. I shouldn't have missed that. If I Bowmasters onto my opponent's Barrogoyf, crack the Spellbomb targeting my opponent, then I exile my 3 cards for Psychic Frog, it dies from state-based effect. Right? Or I guess it doesn't. I guess it's an 0-1 then. Okay, whatever. Maybe we can find a good play on combat here. Let's see. If my opponent gives flying to the Psychic Frog, my Tamiyo is gone. This game is so yeah, time is definitely an issue here. And has a lot to do with my ability to play correctly as well, but that's how it goes when you make content, right? My opponent is considering where to attack with Frog. Here comes the Lifelinker. So yeah, I guess the Lifelinker I'm blocking for sure. Block. What happens if my opponent... Yeah, I think that's fine. So my opponent is now looking to, get rid of a card in my yard. Then I can discard a land to, keep the frogs at least Curdape. Cameo dead. Opponent draws a card. I get to ping. Is this where I ping the Barrogoyf? Because I have... I think so. So now, let's see. And then get rid of my opponent's graveyard. I think I know what's going on here, but also not quite sure. So trying to exile my opponent's graveyard. Not drawing. Discarding to Frog. Flying. Flying. And it dies from state-based effects. So, I mean, that play was pretty sweet, but who knows where this game is going now. Orcish Bowmasters killing my Orcish Bowmasters. Ah, this is so funny. I draw Bowmasters. Jesus. That's so incredible. Oh, that's so good. Okay, so now let's see. Attack, attack, attack. Stay back with Nethergoyf on chump block duty, I think is reasonable. So now the point is I want my opponent to, you know, underestimate these draws because of the Bowmasters in play. And then I'm gonna... Yeah, exactly. Something like this is very advantageous for me because now I play Bowmasters, killing my opponent's Bowmaster. So I get to draw 2 cards here without punishment. Tamiyo, decent. Fairy Macabre, who knows? Play that card. Crack a clue, I guess. Dark Betrayal. Very nice card. So now my opponent needs some amazing stuff. I'm at 8. Ponder. I have an active Bowman. This is not going to end well for the opponent. Also, the Fairy Macabre makes sure that Entomb shenanigans are out of the picture. Yeah, this game was absurd. This is not exactly the type of game that I prefer on camera, because I think there are tons of more stuff to dive into, but at some point I also just had to take some game actions and, you know, make the most of it. But oof. This was a great game. I've really had a hard time finding removal, but I guess I found 2 Bowmasters when it mattered. Let's see if my opponent has one more shot in the chamber, or they're writing me a farewell message. Yeah, the Baragov turn didn't seem amazing, where I got to kill it with, you know, state-based effects, etc. And I was just clicking buttons there. I could probably have done a better job on that turn as well, but I also needed to finish this game in time, right? So, yeah, pretty insane game. Turn 11, it felt like turn 20. With that being said, we're 2-0, so let's keep it up. Quick moment here to shout out all the awesome Barons over at my Patreon. I'm slowly but surely building a nice community over there, and I wouldn't be without it, and I wouldn't be anywhere without you guys' support. So each and every one of you, thank you so much. And now, let's get back to the games. Okay, round 3 is upon us here. I'm on the draw with my blue-black mid-range deck. Tempo deck, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I have a couple of spell bombs here that's going to be very hit or miss. Okay, turn 1 Tamiyo is annoying. I think I have to ponder here to not fold to a single wasteland. It's kind of a weak play, but yeah, especially now with the shuffle. This is going to be a problem because this has 1 lander written all over it. Right now, I think it's a mirror, but still could be Reanimator. Some Reanimator decks play a couple of Tamiyos. Fatal Push. I guess it's a decent draw, but I still have to draw my land to be in this game. I don't. I think I cast a Thoughtseize here to learn more about my opponent's deck. Also, I've been seen playing a lot of Reanimator recently. Yeah, so now my opponent's gonna crack the clue, wasteland me after missing. All right. Let's try and go to sideboarding. So I saw second Tameo there, which is pretty funny. I'm gonna bring out my forces. Keeping the Nile spell bombs. I don't know about that. I guess it's fine. Could have played on to learn more about my opponent's deck, but I'm gonna assume it's a mirror, possibly with no Netherglyphs in it. So let's see, what do we play against? I played against Doomsday, I played against Reanimator, and now I play it against more Underground Seas. So Psychic Frog all over the place. Psychic Frog might not be long for this world. It's gonna be interesting to see. That card is quite amazing. The investment is just so small compared to what it does if you know, if it doesn't get killed. This hand looks, reasonable. Am I surveilling or am I casting a good brainstorm? Let's start on Polluted Delta, pass the turn. Verdant. That doesn't necessarily tell us what we're up against. I think it's reasonable to... Ooh, nice draw. So I don't play Swamp anymore. Okay. I guess I'll play a Psychic Frog. Let's see. Underground Sea plus Island. Sure, I can get pushed, but my opponent might respect Daze, so I get a little bit of equity. Sure, I might get dazed, but then I'm ahead on mana. So yeah, Psychic Frog on the play, a bit better than Psychic Frog on the draw. If I get forced, also pretty happy with that. My hand is begging for my opponent to play out some frogs. Okay, Murktide Regent. Okay, so Murktide Regent confirms that we're playing a mirror. So let's see. Yeah, I like my sideboarding. I sideboarded as if it was the mirror, no Fairy Macabres, and yeah. Looks like I have the ideal setup. Now there's a target for Wasteland. My opponent binning a land is, of course, a little bit concerning. So if my opponent goes Frog here, I want a Fatal Push first before I make my land drop. Let's say I get forced again. Could be, Then I want to play my second Black Swords out and kill the Frog. I didn't get forced. So now I think it's reasonable to Wasteland. I'm actually going to leave my opponent's Undercity Sewers in play because if my opponent's kind of pressured on mana, dazing back as Sewers is not an advantage. Let's see if that's gonna be an advantage. So let's play out Badlands. Let's play out Netherglyph. Right now, sure, I want to fire off a Brainstorm at some point, but I also don't want to get Bowmastered, so I'm looking for a better spot. Also, I'm not under pressure. Brainstorm gets better over the course of a game. Let's see if my opponent is willing to get Bowmastered here. A lot of these matchups, in my opinion, are about knowing what my opponent knows. Looks like my opponent did the Bowmaster test. If I have the Bowmaster, I play it out here. This could tell me that my opponent has Daze in hand. Also worth noting is my opponent probably sideboarded for Reanimator. So drawing something like... excuse me, drawing something like Fairy Macabre is definitely on the table. My opponent with no fetch here, which is scary. That means my opponent just likes all their cards. It's not really how I prefer things to go. So worth noting is I'm weak to the card Murktide Regent. and to some extent Baragoyf. Here's Wasteland. My opponent could be interested to take me off red, but that's not the case. Here's Tamiyo. I like how my opponent navigated this. I will cast my Brainstorm. Here's Shoot the Sheriff, which is not a bad card. So maybe I have that on top of my deck. So now I hope my opponent does not have second Brainstorm. That would be kind of a blowout. Opponent did not. Then I'm going to play Ponder, hopefully get in for 4 damage. I actually like these cards, so I guess I draw the Frog in case I get, you know, Thoughtseize to Murktide. Looks like my opponent is not interested in taking 4 here, so Nethergoyf is taking a bullet. And that's fine. Like, every removal spell that hits Nethergoyf is one less removal spell I have to worry about when it comes to Psychic Frog, so generally not too concerned about that. Dream scenario is my opponent goes Murktide Regent, I kill it with Shoot the Sheriff. Okay. I like that play. Bowmaster now, playing around, you know, me having Brainstorm. Playing around me having Daze on top of the deck. Here I'm going to play out the Psychic Frog. Which, admittedly, is not a perfect card against the Bowmaster. Kind of annoying if I have to shoot the Sheriff on a Bowmaster, but I guess I will do it. If I get to... Okay, here's Tamiyo. Tamiyo is annoying. Here's Brainstorm, so my opponent is flipping the Tamiyo right away, and I don't have the Blast to punish it. So now my opponent is flipping the Tamiyo, and it goes up to 4. 4 loyalty, that is. So then I have to, you know, give flying, attack, discard a card. Even getting wastelanded here. Okay. So, guess I discard both the Sheriff and the Brainstorm. And I want to play the Nethergoyf. So let's see here. Land. That does not mess with the Goyf, correct? Discard, Brainstorm, and shoot the Sheriff, I guess. So now I attack Tamiyo down to 2 loyalty, which is useful, so my opponent cannot recur Fatal Push. Was it better for me to kill the Frog than replay Nethergoyf out of the yard? Unclear. Nethergoyf getting rid of instant sorcery creature land. Playing it as a 1/2. Only instants left. Pretty embarrassing. So what I could have done was exiling 3 instants for Frog instead of 3 lands, and I would have had a bigger Nethergoyf. Did I know that at the time? I think I did. That was a misstep for sure on my end. So now, sure. My opponent finds a removal spell. I'm kind of in trouble. They don't. I can kill the Tamiyo. Let's see how I do. Brainstorm, with one card in hand. The interesting thing is, my opponent knows that the math is such that if I discard 2 cards, I can exactly kill the Tamiyo. So if my opponent's smart here, they get mileage out of the Fatal Push. Okay, it wasn't a Fatal Push, it was a bomb. And my opponent will now cycle that Spell Bomb to make sure I can't give my Frog flying. So, pretty good play. Pretty heads-up play here. So, no more graveyard. Oh, wow. Is my opponent attacking here? That would be quite bad. Wow. So, did my opponent draw into Fairy Macabre? Okay, that's sick. This must mean my opponent drew into Fairy Macabre. If I'm getting Fairy Macabre here, I did not get Fairy Macabre. What on earth? Huh. Yeah, I don't like that play. So now I can cast... I just thought I still had Brainstorm in hand. That's funny. Yeah, my opponent definitely shouldn't have done that. So let's see. If I go Surveil land here, isn't that great? Let's see. Undercity Sewers. Put the land into the yard. What happens if I attack with both on the Tamiyo? My opponent will need to block something. What if my opponent chum blocks? I think that's okay. What if my opponent blocks there? Chum blocks. Takes 1 over here. Yeah, maybe I'm supposed to do this. Give flying. Because otherwise my opponent can chum block, bring back Fatal Push, and kill the frog. So I kind of want to keep the show moving here. Ponder, great draw. And we find more relevant stuff. Fatal Push, not bad, but the other cards are quite bad. Fatal Push, not bad. The other cards are bad. Actually gonna shuffle these. I'm gonna draw Daze. Okay, fair enough. So, dazing more or less anything, bringing back the sewers, brings me to Flying Frog again next turn. Okay. My opponent did not... Yeah, my opponent could have had a Bowmaster in play and everything would have been a bit different. Definitely did not give themselves the best chance to win. So now my opponent can kind of adjust to what just happened. I guess there's some merit to thinking that I'm not necessarily a mid-range deck. What kind of confirmation did my opponent see that I'm not Reanimator? I'm trying to think. Shoot the Snow. Did not see Bowmaster. Did not see the Pyroblast, but did see the Red Splash. There's a lot of cards here that... Okay, yeah, the Nethergoyf. That's the answer. My opponent saw the Nethergoyfs, and that's why they're going to bring out some stuff here and be a more well-rounded deck and not have, you know, stuff like Force Will, etc. All right, game 3 on the draw in the mirror here. This hand is pretty cool. I can answer Tamiyo, I can play Tamiyo. I don't have a fetch land, so I'm not going to go turn 1 Nethergoyf. The threat of getting, you know, Bowmaster is simply too big. This is a decent hand. I get to, you know, play a little bit of Magic, and it's going to be a long one. This is not like some big 1-2 punch. This just allows me to play Magic. I think the play here is turn 1 Tamiyo. My opponent keeps a card. Draw Frog. Let's play turn 1 Tamiyo. If it sticks, I'm pretty happy. If it gets killed, whatever. The next turn I go probably Nethergoyf Surveil land. But if my opponent goes Frog, obviously I have to consider casting Fatal Push. Would love to draw land and play around Daze. If I draw land, I will go push first and then Nethergoyf. Oh, sure. Here's Bowmaster. Interestingly enough. What happens if I go... Yeah, I feel like I want to kill the Bowmaster. It's an annoying card. Let's see if my opponent wants to fight over it. They don't. Do I want a third land? I feel like yes. Getting a clue for later. The Brainstorm can flip Tamiyo at any moment, which might come up. My 3 frogs are... That's a bit too many frogs to my taste. Let's see what my opponent is on. I've actually had a trouble... I've had trouble drawing removal spells in general. I know I have the Fatal Push here. My mix has been a bit weird, but it's also pretty cool. My opponent keeps the cards on Ponder. Could be any, like, you'll make, these cantrips are in the deck to have like a solid land spell ratio, and then maybe at some point you're looking for something specific, but now you're really not. Also worth noting is I don't have that many answers to oh, this is Dismember. Okay, Dismember and then Wasteland me. That's pretty good. My deck doesn't have that many answers for Murktide Regent. So I'm pretty happy with the land on top of my deck. Now I'm going to play Frog into, I guess, Daze once more. Or play my whatever card into Daze once more, just like the Fatal Push last turn. Psychic Frog. Pretty good card. Does get dominated by Murktide, which my opponent could somewhat reasonably have here. My opponent thought about this if they're looking for a little bit of value, or they're looking for, you know, tempo from an untapped duel getting returned. I've had great games today. This has been pretty cool. Also worth noting, my opponent dazed last turn. In most cases, I daze back at this spot. So my opponent feels like they did the daze check, which is unfortunately true. So now I have 1 copy of Shoot the Sheriff and a couple of Pyroblasts for Murktide answers. Let's get rid of maybe the second frog is not that great. Maybe get rid of those. Fetch. Go for Badlands, maybe? Cast Ponder first. And we find it? We did not find it, so I guess I shuffle. And play Nethergoyf. Nethergoyf is a big boy here, but I'm losing in the air to that Murktide. I play Murktide myself, which is solid answer, with my opponents being a 6/6. Passing the turn back, I draw Frog. Okay, so Let's see, how do we play from here? Brazen Borrower would be quite annoying. It's a 3/1 flyer. I think I want to wasteland my opponent here on combat. Let's see if the Brazen comes in here. My opponent would be looking to finish me off in the air. Here comes Brazen, so at least we had that red. And now we can kill the Brazen. Play Psychic Frog, pass the turn. And now I'm in trouble. 3 outs in the deck will kill the Murktide. I guess my 2 own Murktides are also quite strong. I do have, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 instants and sorceries in the yard, so my Murktide will outgrow my opponent's. I just got the Brazen out of there. Played well with the Wasteland and the push. Let's see. My opponent can kill the Frog and get in for 7 here if they have a Fatal Push of their own. Oh yeah, this is annoying. Because now my opponent is basically taunting me to chum block with the Murktide. Isle Spellbomb is actually quite solid in this. It's making my Nethergoyf inconsequential, and it's making my Frog non-evasive on my turn. So, if I chum block now... Yeah, I think I have to do it, even though it's really not my favorite activity here. But it will give me a bit more time. Bloodstainmire, any follow-ups? No. Fatal Push. How do I play? I feel like I play like this. Play Psychic Frog. Attack for Uno. Looking to clear the Org army with push to get in for a Frog draw next turn. I don't like this. Now I'm gonna get hit down to 4. And unfortunately, it looks like my opponent is kind of ready here. I mean, what could realistically be in that hand that is not just winning the game? Okay, that card is definitely something that is allowed to be in the hand. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury to play around days here because I want like some cantrip, sack clue line to be live. So I will play into that days. Let's see. I get the turn. Speaking of days. So if I put that into the Frog and attack, I get a draw. Now I can't draw my own Murktide. I need to draw the removal. Have a couple of draws to do it between the Frog and the Clue. And I need my opponent's last card to be a brick. Unfortunately, this looks like not a brick. This looks like a Orcish Bowmaster's punishing the draw. Oh, crap. Okay, bounce that. I guess we crack this Clue. Sure. All right, we get destroyed by the Murktide here. It's I guess with between 2 Murktides, 2 Pyroblasts, and Shoot the Sheriff, I think I have enough answers, but who knows? This deck was fun to play. I got into some insanely grindy games, played against 3 different Underground Sea decks, and let's be honest, that just might be what your Eternal Weekend experience looks like at this point. But yeah, pretty cool deck. I didn't get to Price of Progress anybody. The red sources were, you know, I think the flexibility of Pyroblast pretty cool if if I'm playing against 3 different Underground Sea decks. At the end of the day, pretty happy with this deck. I want to play it further. I think the big one is whether Nethergoyf and Baubles are, you know, it's good to close out games or it's better to play longer. There's a little bit about me only playing 3 Wastelands. Other than that, this deck is very standard, and I like the look of it. It can do a little bit of everything. Sometimes you give them the Delver treatment. Sometimes you're like a Dimir control deck. Sometimes you're kill my frog or you lose the game. And yeah, just a lot of cool and fair interactive Magic, just how I like it. So yeah, that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope you guys had a good time. I sure did. And I'll see you next time.